I can't quite believe I'm about to say this, but welcome back to another long-term shoe review video, and here we have the Hoka Mach 6 after 400 miles. And I hear you say, Andy, why are you being so enthusiastic about that? And why are you so excited by the fact that you've got a Hoka shoe to 400 miles? I'll just repeat what I said. I've got a Hoka shoe to 400 miles. I can't quite believe I'm saying it, but here we are. The Hoka Mach 6 has done it, and we'll be answering the question very shortly. Is it done? But of course, with all long-term shoe review videos, we'll be going through the wear and tear, how I've been using it, and of course, will I keep using it moving forwards. And at the end, I'm going to quickly throw in what the change I think they've made to this shoe that's made the difference for me to get a Hoka shoe up to 400 miles. Now, to give some context very quickly to that statement, why I'm so shocked that I've gotten to 400 miles, I'd like to ask you the question, have you ever managed to get a Hoka shoe to 400 miles? And I'm sure the answer for most of you is probably no. I'm sure there's a few of you out there that have, but I have never had any success. But the updates they've done to this shoe have made the world of difference, and we are now here at 400 miles. My Rincons, they didn't even last 200 miles. Honestly, the Clifton 9 I got earlier this year, that got to just over 100 before that foam went flat, and of course that was the standard EVA. And my Tecton, no, not my Tecton, my Torrent 2s that I used a couple of years ago, exactly the same. Didn't even get them to 200 miles, and they went as hard as a brick in the midsole. So that's the context for you. Let's dive in. And so let's jump in straight away to the wear and tear of this shoe, and you'll be pretty pleased to know that it is holding up really well. In terms of, we'll start with the upper, as you can see here, no snags, no frays, no tears whatsoever. Still extremely comfortable. Go down the top there, as you can see, nothing whatsoever. I mentioned this in an Asics video, I can't remember, it must have been the Noosa Tri. After 100 miles, I think it was, you start to see a lot of wear back here in Asics shoes. It seems to be a thing. I've had it in multiple shoes. I've been studying this shoe, looking around for areas of wear in the material. There's just nothing, and 400 miles is pretty darn impressive for a daily trainer, I might add, and some that I've put some good miles in have worn down much more than this. So 100 miles, the upper is holding up really well. The midsole, obviously you can't really tell anything visually. We'll talk more about the midsole shortly. You can see it's a little bit creased there, but in terms of the shape, it's not really lost any shape. It is, as I said, creased more so on the top section there, and of course it's more compressed than it was. We'll talk about that in a second, but in terms of visually, again, absolutely fine. And surprisingly, the one thing that I thought was going to be a big drawback, and something that I found in previous Hoka shoes, when they've had that outsole pattern that are almost like little pods everywhere, they often shed like snakeskin if they don't have any rubber outsole on them. This thin layer of rubber they've applied to this version has made the world of difference to this shoe. No surprise there really, is it? But it's protecting. So you can see here we've got a chewed up section of the midsole, which honestly is literally just taken the surface layer off. The rest of the outsole pattern, you can see here the rubber has worn down there, and of course at the top here you can see the rubber has also worn down there, but for the most part of it, the rubber is looking pretty darn good. At the heel here, there's a little bit of wear back here, and in terms of this side, absolutely fine as well. As you can see, there's a bit of wear in the exposed midsole, but we're not talking a lot. Now, for context, once again, I tend to have a midfoot strike, so that's why there's a lot more wear on this forefoot area here. There is a bit of wear on the heel section, and I do put my hands up and say sometimes I will heel strike as I'm going downhill. I can be a bit lazy and sit back. So that tends to be where that happens. But for the majority of it, this is where I see the wear on the shoes. And yeah, for a shoe that is very minimalistic, nice and lightweight, it's holding up pretty darn well. And in terms of how I've been using this shoe, how have I got it to 400 miles? Well, predominantly it's been pretty much an easy and moderate day shoe, majoritively easy. I'd say probably 75% of the miles logged in this shoe have been an easy day shoe. Now, if you know the channel and you know me, you'll know that I'm not a huge fan of max cushion shoes. I find them sort of like too cumbersome, too clunky, and this thing provides and has provided the ultimate amount of cushioning without being too bulky. In my UK size 13, this comes in under 300 grams, which is a big win for me. And to put that into context, it's lighter than the majority of the shoes that I own, which is fantastic. So I get the cushion benefits without worrying about running around feeling like I've got clogs on my feet. Plus the comfort in the top has been fantastic as well. That's how I've been using most of the shoe. As for the other runs, as I said, I have thrown some steady state runs in there, some moderate runs. I've done a couple of long runs in there. I came back off holiday and the first run I did as I wanted a slightly slower long run, but still ended up running at a steady pace and still got down to marathon effort, was this thing. And so it was over 20 miles in it. And then I've done a couple of workouts. I've done an evening double threshold when I've been running a little bit faster. 520s per mile, so 320s in around that region per K. And then today I did my not my marathon pace, my LT1 session. So it was slightly slower than marathon pace. That was around 6:13 per mile. Don't know, ask me what the K conversion is on that. But I've done a good variety of paces in this shoe. And for each and every area, it's done really well. Now, of course, what I will say is that it isn't the best for speed. I find shoes with a more pronounced rocker that might start a little bit further back, something like the Noosa Tri 16, to be slightly better, a bit more aggressive, puts you on your toes a bit more. Of course, a Hoka shoe predominantly or usually has a 5mm drop. This is no different. So naturally, you're not going to feel like you are rolling off on the edge of your toes. However, due to its lightweight nature, it is very fast, and so it does handle those speed sessions really well. So for the most part, easy runs, but for the rest of it, long runs, steady runs, and workouts. And here's the most difficult question of all. Will I continue to use this shoe moving forwards? I'm going to give you two answers to this question. You might wonder why, but I'm going to explain why now. In the past, back years ago, I used to take a shoe to failure every single time. I get tightness up the outside and inside of my legs, and it was very painful. And then I would go, right, that shoe is flat. It's no good anymore. I need to change them. I'd put 600, 700, 800 miles in a pair of shoes, and then I'd throw them out and then get a new pair. But of course, for the first 2 or 3 weeks, when you get that tightness and you start running in a new shoe, you're kind of battling and avoiding injury because your legs are already tight. So you're kind of trying to reverse the effects of what you've already done. I have since, I'm talking 7 or 8 years ago now, I've stopped doing that, and I've never quite taken the shoe to the point of that before, again, and I don't intend to do it on this one. However, what I did say is I do want to take this shoe to failure. Now, the thing with this shoe is I did the run in it this morning, and the first thing that I thought was, do you know what? It significantly lost bounce. It significantly lost comfort, but it still has a tiny bit of life left in it. It still has a bit of squish. In the standard EVA foams that I've been used to in older Hoka shoes, and this is why I feel Hoka got a completely bad rep, and understandably so, putting the standard EVA foam in, it just goes as dead as a brick. It goes so hard, and you're literally running, and the vibrations as your foot hits the floor, shockwaves through your body. And often I felt it literally in my teeth, like shaking through my body. And it's a horrible experience. And at that point, you know the shoe is dead. It's not there, and it's not, I wouldn't even say it's even close to being there. What I would say is from the early days of its bounce, and sort of realistically, it had a bit of propulsion to it, even though you're not kind of, as I said, on the edge of your seat with it, rolling through ridiculously fast, it still gave some responsiveness back. It's lost the majority of that. I'd probably say 85 to 90%. However, there's still some left in it. Would I take it on another workout? No, I would not. Would I take it on 2 or 3 or 4, maybe more easy runs? Yes. The question then I have to ask is it worth it? Am I going to do myself more harm than good if I do take it to the point of failure, and am I going to cause myself an injury? So that's the question I'm kind of answering. I feel like I should probably do the right thing and retire it at 400 miles. But just trust me when I say it could probably do another 2 or 3 runs at least. And so this is a point of video that I want to give Hoka some credit, to be fair, because a lot of brands, when Nike burst onto the scene with the carbon plate shoes, and then Adidas very quickly caught up, and lots of other brands caught up, there are a few brands that were lagging behind. Let's cast our mind back 3, 4, 5 years ago. Asics were very much slated for being very much behind the time, still using gel in most of their shoes and really just not catching up. Well, look what they've done now. They have really caught up and are now offering a massively competitive product in terms of their racing shoes, and across the board, the Super Blast is labelled as one of the best shoes out there. So we know that brands can turn it around, and I feel like Hoka are now finally on that trajectory. Was it last year or the year before? They released the Rocket X, and that had their new Piba racing midsole foam that was used, and everyone just went, wow, this is finally the first Hoka racing shoe that I can get on board with. Now, it's not a shoe that I've tried, but I've heard incredibly positive things about that shoe. Of course, we've seen that technology trickle down into the is it the Cielo X1 or the Cielo, which is another bulkier racing shoe, but still extremely comfortable and, might I add, extremely durable. And of course, we've then seen that trickle down in some of their trainers. And I was fortunate enough to test the Hoka Mach X, the first version, which was a dual layer midsole with that Piba racing midsole as the top layer. I think it was the top layer, and then the supercritical EVA on the bottom. And that's what I want to talk about. Not only did they get a better racing midsole, but they've upgraded their EVA foam to supercritical EVA. Now, I mean, we can still say it's a blend of EVA, and still the lifespan of that midsole might not quite be as much as some of the others. Let's take Light Strike Pro, for example, and Light Strike, that's obviously going to have a lot longer lifespan. I've just proven that with the 500 mile Adios Pro 3 video that I've done. However, we're no longer talking about Hoka producing shoes that are going dead at around 100, 200 or even 300 miles. The previous Hoka Mach 4 I had was dead just over 300, which I felt was like brilliant because that was the longest I'd ever taken a Hoka shoe. This one has now reinvented things and it's brilliant. I'm also hearing lots of great things about the Hoka Mach X2. It's a shoe that I'm very interested in. But I've got to say, finally, with the new racing midsole, the new Piba racing midsole, plus this new supercritical EVA, this has been the game changer in this shoe, and I really do feel this has propelled it to top of the charts for me this year. Now, in case you missed my first impressions video, I purchased this shoe with my own money, so no one sent this shoe to me. These are obviously fully my opinions, and I just wanted to get that out there in case you thought I was blowing smoke up Hoka's ass, which I'm not. I've tested enough Hoka shoes that I've purchased with my own money in the past. In fact, the only one that I didn't pay for was the Hoka Mach X. That was very kindly sent to me by Pro Direct Running. However, the rest I've all paid for, and I was extremely disappointed with the Rincon back in the day. I love that shoe, and I've been very tempted to try the newer Rincon now, but I gather it's still their standard EVA foam. So I'm very much on the camp now of I'm not going to test any Hoka shoes that have their standard EVA in them, but I'm fully prepared to pay full price for something like this if I'm going to get over 400 miles out of them. And I will also say I managed to get a 15% discount on this shoe, so I think I paid like 115, 120 pound for it, which is an absolute bargain. Not only is it probably the bargain of the year, but it's probably the best shoe of the year that I've tested as well. So we'll leave it there, guys. I just wanted to give you this incredible update on the Hoka Mach X. I'm going to throw it back to you guys. How are you getting on with your Hoka Mach X shoes, Mach X, Hoka Mach 6 shoes? How many miles have you put in them? And of course, it'd be great to hear how many you've put in the Hoka Mach X2. Did you guys pick that one up? It's been recommended to me so much. It's unbelievable. So again, drop a comment. Let me know how you're getting on with the new supercritical EVA and of course their racing foam. And of course, finally, do you think they've turned it around? Do you think they're going to be catching up the competition over the next couple of years? I think they will be, but I guess time will tell. That's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and I'll see you on the next one.